The ancient Greek world came alive with excitement every 4 years as people from distant valleys, coastlines, and mountain villages traveled to Olympia to witness a gathering unlike any other. Long before the first athlete stepped onto the sandy stadium floor, the air buzzed with anticipation, filled with shouts of greeting, the clip-clop of horses, and the rhythmic pounding of workers preparing arenas, altars, and majestic meeting halls. Children clung to their parents' hands, eyes wide with wonder, sensing they were entering a place where legends were born. The heart of the festival began not with races or cheers, but with sacred rituals honoring Zeus, the mighty king of the gods. Priests lit bright flames on towering altars, the smoke curling upward like the breath of the heavens themselves. Families gathered around, offering cakes, fruits, and small figurines carved from olive wood, believing these humble gifts would earn the gods' favor. Even young children placed olive leaves near the flames, feeling proud to play a small part in such ancient ceremonies. Travelers arrived from across the Greek world: Sparta, Athens, Thebes, Corinth, and countless smaller towns, bringing not only athletes but also storytellers, traders, musicians, and curious spectators. Camps spread across the fields surrounding Olympia as people pitched tents, shared food, and exchanged stories about heroes, sea voyages, and the adventures of the gods. Children darted between groups, laughing as they watched acrobats practice flips or musicians tune their lyres for evening gatherings. Training grounds buzzed with action as athletes prepared for their moment of glory. Runners practiced sprinting barefoot across dusty tracks, their feet kicking up tiny clouds that shimmered in the sunlight. Wrestlers grappled in smooth pits of sand, muscles straining as they learned to balance strength with strategy. Boxers wrapped their hands with leather straps and tested their punches against thick posts. Young onlookers watched in awe, imagining themselves one day standing in the center of the stadium as crowds roared their names. The opening events brought immense excitement to both competitors and spectators. Trumpets announced the start of the games as thousands of people squeezed onto benches carved from stone and wood. When the foot races began, athletes leaned forward like arrows ready to fly, then burst into motion with incredible speed. The crowd erupted into cheers, waving olive branches in the air as runners pushed themselves toward the finish line. Children shouted their favorite athletes' names, thrilled by every close victory. Wrestling and pankration were among the most intense competitions. Wrestlers circled one another with careful steps, each searching for an opportunity to throw their opponent to the ground. Pankration, a mix of wrestling and boxing, demanded courage, skill, and calm under pressure. Spectators gasped at every dramatic takedown or daring escape. Even though the battles seemed fierce, athletes were taught to show respect, reminding everyone that honor was more important than winning. Chariot races filled the stadium with thunderous energy. Drivers gripped the reins tightly as teams of horses charged forward, hooves pounding the earth like rolling drums. Dust swirled into golden clouds as chariots swung around tight corners at breathtaking speeds. The crowd leaned forward, shouting warnings and encouragement as wheels scraped dangerously close. Children clutched each other's arms, torn between excitement and fear, knowing that a single misstep could topple a chariot in an instant. Victory ceremonies were among the most celebrated moments of the festival. Winners stood proudly as olive-wreathed crowns made from the sacred tree of Zeus were placed gently upon their heads. Crowds applauded with enthusiasm, chanting the victors' names as musicians played triumphant melodies. Poets often composed verses on the spot, praising the athletes' skill and courage in words meant to echo across generations. Families of the winners beamed with pride, knowing their community's honor would be remembered for centuries. Life beyond the competitions thrived with just as much energy. Merchants sold pottery painted with running figures, small bronze statues, sweet cakes flavored with honey, and colorful fabrics that fluttered in the summer breeze. Philosophers gathered in shaded corners to discuss ethics, honor, and the nature of excellence. Musicians performed lively ballads at night, their melodies drifting across the campgrounds as people relaxed by firelight, sharing food and stories under a sky glittering with countless stars. Children found endless adventure in Olympia. They raced each other across open fields, reenacted wrestling matches in miniature, and played games inspired by the events they watched. They listened eagerly to bards who recounted tales of Heracles building the first Olympic field or Zeus defeating powerful titans. These stories filled young minds with wonder, encouraging them to dream of greatness, courage, and the pursuit of excellence. Despite the crowds and excitement, the festival also promoted peace and unity. During the games, a sacred truce known as the Ekikiryu ensured that conflicts between city-states paused, allowing travelers to journey safely. People who might have been rivals at home shared meals, traded gifts, and strengthened friendships. Children learned from watching adults that for a brief moment in time, the love of competition and the honoring of the gods brought everyone together in harmony. Nature played a beautiful role in the festival's atmosphere. Tall olive trees cast cool shadows across walkways, while the gentle Alpheus River flowed nearby, offering refreshing water to tired athletes and travelers. Breezes carried the scent of pine, herbs, and freshly baked bread from campfires, creating a sense of calm amid the lively crowds. Families often wandered along the riverbank at dusk, watching the sun dip low as the sounds of musicians and storytellers echoed through the valley. As the festival went on, people realized that the Olympic Games were more than just athletic contests. They were celebrations of discipline, honor, and the human spirit. Athletes return home not only with wreaths but also with stories of friendship, bravery, and the thrill of pushing their limits. Children dreamed of returning someday as competitors, inspired by what they had seen and eager to chase their own paths toward excellence. By the time the festival ended, Olympia felt transformed, as though the land itself had soaked up the joy, laughter, and determination of everyone who had gathered there. Families packed their belongings, said heartfelt goodbyes, and began the journey home, carrying memories they would treasure for a lifetime. The echoes of cheers, the glow of the sacred flame, and the spirit of unity lingered in their hearts long after they left. And so, the ancient Olympic Games became a shining symbol of Greek culture, an extraordinary event that blended competition, ritual, storytelling, and community. With every celebration, the Greeks honored their gods, inspired their children, and reminded themselves of what humans could achieve when they challenged their bodies, sharpened their minds, and came together in peace. As the festival days continued, Olympia seemed to glow brighter with each rising sun, as if the very hills and trees understood the significance of what was unfolding. Morning mist drifted gently across the stadium, curling around marble columns and the roofs of nearby shrines. Families woke early to the distant sounds of athletes warming up, the thud of feet on earth, the slap of hands against leather practice bags, and the soft hum of voices preparing for yet another day of excitement and wonder. Vendors bustled with fresh energy, laying out baskets of figs, clusters of grapes, and warm flatbreads sprinkled with sesame seeds. The scent of roasting meats mingled with the sharper smell of olive oil and herbs from countless cooking pots. Children tugged at their parents' tunics, eager to grab small treats or peer at new trinkets. Travelers exchanged cheerful greetings as they passed each other, carrying armfuls of goods purchased to bring home as souvenirs of this remarkable gathering. In the center of the sanctuary, artists worked tirelessly to capture the spirit of the games in clay, bronze, and pigment. Potters spun their wheels with practiced grace, shaping vases decorated with athletes in mid-stride or triumphant poses. Sculptors chipped away at blocks of stone, releasing forms that seemed to emerge little by little from inside the marble itself. Painters created colorful murals depicting not only athletic feats but also scenes from myths and heroic tales. Children watched in awe, whispering about how these creations would one day remind future generations of the glory they witnessed today. Throughout Olympia, lively crowds gathered around storytellers who had traveled great distances to share their talents. These bards took center stage in open courtyards, using dramatic gestures and booming voices to recount thrilling adventures. Heroes battled monsters, trickster gods played clever pranks, and warriors sailed across stormy seas, all brought vividly to life with every rise and fall of the storyteller's voice. Kids sat cross-legged in the dust, completely spellbound, sometimes calling out predictions or questions, much to the delight of the performers. As afternoon sunlight turned golden, the stadium once again roared with excitement. Long jump contestants prepared their leaps with focused determination, gripping small lead weights called halters to help propel themselves farther through the air. Spectators cheered every landing, whether smooth or wobbly, celebrating the courage of anyone bold enough to compete. Nearby, discus throwers spun in graceful circles, sending their bronze discs gliding into the sky like shimmering birds before they thudded deep into the sand. Children gasped and clapped, amazed by strength that seemed almost superhuman. The javelin events brought both and nervous tension. Athletes stepped forward with long wooden spears balanced perfectly in their hands, eyes narrowed as they measured the distance ahead. With a burst of power, they hurled the javelins into the air, the weapons slicing through the sky with a whistle that silenced the crowd. When they landed, cheers erupted from every corner of the stadium, echoing across the valley. Parents lifted their children to see better, hoping to inspire dreams that could one day become reality. Later in the day, musicians and dancers took to open gathering spaces to entertain tired spectators. Lyre players plucked lively tunes as groups of dancers swirled and leapt in carefully practiced movements. The dancers' flowing robes created rippling waves of color that captivated anyone who happened to stroll by. Travelers joined in by clapping to the beat, tapping their feet, or even attempting a few steps themselves, often stumbling amid laughter. These moments of shared joy reminded everyone that the festival was not just a competition, but a celebration of life and culture. Evenings brought cooler air and a sense of calm after the long hours of excitement. Families wandered toward the temple precinct to light small oil lamps, placing them carefully along pathways or near sacred statues. The soft glow illuminated faces filled with hope, gratitude, and reflection. Priests carried out quiet rituals, offering prayers that honored not only Zeus, but also the spirits of athletes past who had competed with courage and grace. Children listened closely, feeling the weight and wonder of traditions older than their great-grandparents. Nighttime also transformed Olympia into a place of endless stories and camaraderie. Campfires flickered across the fields, painting the darkness with warm, dancing light. Groups formed naturally, strangers becoming friends as they shared meals, exchanged tales, and laughed softly under the sparkling constellations. Musicians wandered from fire to fire, playing gentle melodies that drifted into the night like whispered magic. Some families cuddled together, pointing at stars said to represent legendary heroes who once walked the earth. As the final day of the festival arrived, excitement returned in full force. The grand procession, one of the most anticipated moments, featured athletes dressed in simple yet dignified robes, walking proudly beneath banners displaying symbols of their homelands. Crowds lined the paths, waving branches and shouting encouragement. Children darted forward to get a closer look at the champions they admired, hoping to catch a brief smile or nod of recognition. Closing ceremonies blended deep emotion with powerful symbolism. A great flame, lit at the start of the festival, flickered taller as priests added fragrant herbs and oils. The rising smoke curled gracefully toward the heavens, a final message to Zeus expressing gratitude for the peaceful days shared among so many people. Athletes gathered in a circle, placing their hands over their hearts as a reminder of the honor, discipline, and unity that bound them together. As people prepared to leave, merchants packed their goods, storytellers gathered their instruments, and athletes said farewell to rivals turned friends. Children hugged the friends they had made, promising to return in 4 years and to be even taller, faster, or braver next time. Parents exchanged well wishes with travelers heading in different directions, forming connections that reached far beyond the borders of their own city-states. When the crowds finally dispersed, the sacred grounds of Olympia fell into a peaceful stillness. The stadium sat quiet beneath the fading light, the altars glowed faintly with the last embers of ritual fires, and the echoes of laughter and cheers lingered as gentle memories. Though the festival lasted only a short time, its spirit lived on, carried in the hearts of every traveler who had witnessed its beauty, competition, and unity. In the end, the Olympic Games stood as a shining reminder of what people could achieve when they gathered not to fight, but to honor tradition, celebrate excellence, and share moments of joy. For the ancient Greeks, Olympia was more than a destination, it was a promise that greatness could be found in every athlete, every storyteller, every child with a dream, and every community willing to come together in peace.